Thank you very much. I think it was about 2 years ago that Vance came together with Dan Rowe and Tony Hershaw to Romania to visit Barbara and myself. We had some very, very inspiring discussions, and I'm very happy that these discussions eventually resulted in us being here. And so far we have kept a very low profile on this project for some very good reasons, and this is the first time now that we present this project to a larger audience of fellow conservationists. Thank you. Let me first get you a little bit to the Carpathians. This is far away. Many of you might not have ever been there. Romania is a country that is not very popular for travel, and so let me just get you a big shot from there. There is a land of endless forests, a land of breathtaking beauty and giant mountains. There is this land full of hidden treasures and spectacular landscapes. This land has more large carnivores than any other place on this continent. And this land is used in an ancient way by people. This left space for all parts of nature. This is a truly wild place, right in the heart of Europe. But this is also a land which is threatened to be lost forever. Right now, there is an environmental disaster happening. That's the Carpathian Mountains of Romania. Welcome. Let's have a quick look at where this mountain range is. We are in the southeastern part of Europe. The Carpathians are a 209,000 square kilometer large area, spanning 1,500 kilometers and covering 7 countries. 33,000 square kilometers, which is almost the size of Yucatan state, are very, very important conservation areas according to WWF International. 2/3 of this area don't have any form of protection right now. But we can conclude that this is the green backbone of Europe. We've heard 2 days ago about the wild heart of Europe in the German-Czech border area. This is the green backbone. We still have to find the green brain, however. Well, if you look a bit closer, if you look at Google Earth, then you find that the largest consecutive forests of Europe are here in the Carpathian Mountains. We have about 4,000 plant species living there, and there's about 50% of all European large carnivores in these mountains. With the accession of Romania to the European Union, the legal frame of the country and the conditions has changed dramatically. After 50 years of communism, now suddenly everything has been turned upside down. The forests have been originally, in its majority, privately owned. That was all nationalized during communist times, and the forests have been very sustainably and very carefully managed by the State Forest Authority. Now, with the accession to the European Union, more than 3 million hectares of forests will be restituted not to the former owners, because most of them are not alive anymore, but to their heirs. These people have no relation to these forests that they get back. They often don't live in the area anymore, and they just prove through old documents that their grandfathers once owned some forests there. Now when they get these forests back, the only thing that they can think of is turn these forests into cash as fast as possible. So before they even own the deeds to the land, they often sell them to logging companies, cut them down, transport the timber out, and process them in newly built sawmills. There's one small city nearby where we live, where in the last couple of years, 80 new sawmills have opened. And the results of that policy are devastating. Wherever forests are being restituted, they are immediately turned into big clear cuts, and more scars are covering the Carpathian Mountains. Today, if you look at Google Earth, you find that some areas look just like this. And this is in the middle of Europe. This is not somewhere in the tropical rainforest. Some even look like this, that once used to be, or not once, this was 5 years ago, that still was a contiguous forest cover. And that all has been transformed now into fancy cars, SUVs mainly, four-wheel drive cars. People just want to show now their new wealth. That has been transformed into houses, into expensive interior design, villas, mountain weekend houses in the most beautiful parts. Even inside the protected areas, that has happened. The forests have been restituted and locked down even inside the parks. And the national parks are no longer national parks. Really, they are on paper there, but not more than that. The Romanian government is not capable to protect this unique European heritage. And I'm afraid to say that, but during communist times, conservation of these forests was a real issue. Nowadays, with the democracy that we have in Romania, conservation is absolutely no more priority. So that's the bad news. The good news is you can always do something about things. Even if it gets really bad, do something. So to face this challenge, we have got a group of dedicated biologists, conservationists, and philanthropists with conservation experience from 4 continents together to develop a project in the southeastern Romanian Carpathians. I would like to present all of them in detail. We don't have the time to do that, but let me still give you a quick overview of who is involved in there. There is Hans-Jörg Wies, Swiss-American philanthropist who has done a lot of conservation work. Doug and Chris Tompkins, I don't need to introduce them, you all know them. Markus Jepsen, a Danish philanthropist that lives in Hong Kong. Paul Lister, the philanthropist and director of the European Nature Trust. Manfred Hell, the CEO of Jack Wolfskin, one of the largest outdoor equipment companies. He has given a commitment both through the company and personally. Toby Aykroyd from Wild Europe, you experienced him earlier this week. Hedi Wies, a Swiss philanthropist. Peter Bennett, director of Rainforest Concern. And then locally, Horacio Hanganu, he was the director of the Piatra Craiului National Park, Barbara and myself. So that's a working group that we have at the moment. We selected a place in the southwestern or south-central Romanian Carpathians. There is an existing national park, the Piatra Craiului National Park. Piatra Craiului means the King's Stone. It is a park that has been developed over the last 10 years. It received GF funding. It was in a good way. It got management plans. And once the GF funding was over, the Romanian government just let it go. And the annual budget that this park has at the moment is 20,000 euro per year. So try to conserve and protect an area where there is so strong economic interests with about 1.3 euro per hectare. This is impossible. It's an absolute impossible task. If you try to call these guys today, they won't even answer the phone because their phones have been switched off because they weren't able to pay for the phone bills. But our vision is to enlarge this 15,000 hectare national park into a 50,000 hectare area, which we want to see forever wild. Now you have to remember that we're in Europe, and in Europe everything is so much smaller and more restricted. So 50,000 hectares is a huge area for European standards. According to a Greenpeace study, there is only 2 places left in Europe that have 50,000 hectares of wilderness, or places where humans are not present. What we are doing is we're trying to create actually Europe's largest forest wilderness. Despite the clear cuts, there is still a lot of forests which are intact. Much of it has not been restituted yet, or is just now in the process of restitution. We want to create a new private national park by using both private and public financing. And the foundation that we have set up with this group of people shall contribute to the conservation and restoration of the natural ecosystem in the Carpathians. There are some areas that need restoration, but much of it is still intact that we want to keep wild. We want to do that for the benefit of biodiversity and local people in the area. Local people at the moment they don't understand how important conservation is to them. So they're basically destroying their own resources, but we're working for them as well. And this area should be large enough to support significant numbers of large carnivores and to allow evolutionary processes to happen. And we do that by acquiring these areas that are restituted, and before logging companies can step in, we're buying them, we protect them. We're just in the process of setting up our own park administration and then administrating through that the forests and the natural grasslands above timberline. Well, what have we managed in these 2 years since we started the project? We have started to build up a network of donors, supporters, and sponsors. And we have already saved 5,500 hectares of forests, basically everything that has been restituted throughout these last 2 years. In order to save these 5,500 hectares that we have bought, we have raised over 14 million euro in these 2 years. And in order to run the project, we have set up this foundation, Conservation Carpathia. On the left side on this satellite image, you see in yellow the boundaries that we would like to establish this national park in, and the pink colors is everything that we have already bought by now in these first 2 years. However, the overall project costs about 130 million euro, which is $180 million. This is an awful lot of money, but we have already raised more than 10% of this sum in less than 2 years. We know that it is one of the most ambitious conservation projects probably in the history of Europe. But on the other side, there's never going to be in the near future such a unique chance to create such a large forest wilderness area in Europe again. This is a very, very short, narrow time window that we have at the moment, so we have to act fast. But we know that with several strong partners, we can do it, and we will do it. So we hope that this area, at least in the Carpathians, can remain wild, can remain a part of a wild Europe. And we need partners to do that. We know that. We need more partners than we have at the moment. So if you feel that you can contribute to that, then please help us. I'm very positive that we will manage to do that and to achieve the results. And I'm very much looking forward to the next conference that Vance is going to organize, and I'm sure I can present you by then that we have actually established a 50,000 hectare wilderness reserve in Europe. Thank you very much.